Every day we have to turn the page and move forward. Because after all, if you are staring in reverse, there is no way that you are looking toward the future. Especially here, whenever you're reviewing music, listening to music, you have to kind of have a bit of a short memory. You have to quickly move on from the past and stay focused on the present and what could be potentially occurring in the future. Of course, we're talking about War Eternal by Arch Enemy. Angela is no longer with the band, and she gave away to Alyssa, who was formerly from the Agonist. Yeah, that little thing at the beginning actually had a point. It's weird, right? It's almost like this video was scripted, but it wasn't. I just had to do it like 4 times, but who cares? We need to talk about this. We need to talk about the album. We need to talk about how how Alyssa's first performance with the band on a studio record went, and we also need to kind of talk about how maybe this changed the band a little bit, if it changed them at all. Now, first of all, they're still a melodic death metal band. That's not changed. That's not changed at its core. And really, whenever you listen to this album, a very good comparison point for this is The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, as compared to Black Gives Way to Blue by Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains, of course, their triumphant return, Black Gives Way to Blue. We definitely heard this be a very Jerry Cantrell-centered album. He did a lot of the writing. He did a lot of, everything on this disc. And a lot of it was very much a tribute to Lane Staley. There's a Alice in Chains discography going on, so that segue even makes sense. But on The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, William Duvall, their new vocalist, their new Lane Staley, so to speak, is really gotten a little bit more of a chance to shine. So really, we can't say much about War Eternal to the positive or to the negative for Alyssa's performance, because really, it's the second album, the album where that synergy and that power really starts to come together and everything starts to really ebb and flow nicely, that we can really, really make a sound assessment on whether or not Alyssa is a great fit for this band, one that has lasting power, and one that's really going to transform this band into something perhaps greater than they were yesterday. So we're going to try to avoid that as much as humanly possible. We thank Angela, much like Johan, for their previous services as vocalists of the band. I'm a big Johan fan. I really am, so I miss that cat, but that was in the 90s. So let's move on. War Eternal. This is a great disc just based off of the principle. I do like the move. I didn't make a video about the move, but I do like the choice of Alyssa from the Agonist coming on board. I really felt she had a great sound to her vocally. And I also felt that a lot of the ideas that she was able to corroborate with her bandmates with in the Agonist was really, really positive. Something that was really brewing a lot of diversity while also having an identity. And that's something where Arch Enemy had an identity, and they maintained that identity. But where I felt that they were the weakest at times, Chaos Legions being a noted exception, a couple of albums prior to that I would say this applied to, is that there was a little bit of a lacking of diversity. There was a little bit of a lacking of that hoopsa factor that made albums such as Wages of Sin and Burning Bridges truly memorable for me. You already hear some of the glimmers that Alyssa can offer in this album. You can already hear it based around some of the introductions, some of the different little pieces of orchestration, some of the different manners of speech, some of the different manners in which songs are constructed. There's definitely a lot of those subtle undertones that Arch Enemy have already been able to deliver without Alyssa and with Angela, in fact, all the way back with Johan. But, I mean, let's face it, Michael Lamont's still in the band, so it's not like that's fucking changed. However, you're even seeing a bit of a dynamic shift in their style a little bit. Yeah, that trademark tone, it's still there. That well, okay, that's not as trademark. But you know what I'm talking about. That trademark Arch Enemy sound is still there. You can still hear it ever present. I was actually quoting On and On. On and On reminds me of a lot of different things. On and On reminds me a lot of, songs such as We Will Rise. There's a lot of great things that really call back on that track. And that's 10 tracks in. Yeah, I just skipped over 9 tracks of the album. But also, it's principally because there are riffs, setup riffs, bridge riffs, solo riffs that remind me of, albums even before that, before the Angela era. There are memories that conjure up to a little bit of Burning Bridges and Stigmata. There's some neoclassical moments that are present on this as well, where you really just get to see the evident shredding ability. Not to mention, there are just some nice instrumentals here. that actually fully soothe you. You Will Know My Name, which is track 6 on the album, now I'm going in reverse because who cares, is something that frightened me at first because I thought perhaps Arch Enemy was going to be attempting some kind of balladeering. Not ballading, balladeering, because I like to invent words. It sounded like that maybe we were going to get our first ever Arch Enemy ballad, and that scared me. Didn't happen. In fact, it was a perfect segue into the actual body and idea of the song. And damn, that's a nice touch. Whenever you're able to throw that curveball a little bit, whenever you're able to add some little subtlety to things, where you think maybe you're going to get one thing, but then you get something completely different, something that definitely sounds a lot more, straight to form, that's a nice touch. And that's something that I felt really wasn't present before. It was something that it hasn't been present for a long time. So this is almost like breathing new life into the band. This is almost like breathing new ideas into the band, because now you have a fresh perspective. And a fresh perspective out of somebody who really plays a very important role. You may dismiss it, but a vocalist plays a very important role because that voice morphed with that music really needs to set the pace, set the theme, and it has to work. We just discussed this with the last couple of album reviews that we did. We've talked about how dissonance and things that sound just unsavory can sometimes be amazing, and yet things that sound a little bit too expected can, well, kind of be a little tedious. But now you have somebody that has a little bit of dynamisy. And the aim was really not for her to sound exactly like Angela. And in reality, she doesn't. There are some similar tonalities to it. Don't get me wrong. It definitely doesn't feel as though Angela left the band. It definitely just seems like perhaps there's a little bit more youthful exuberance. No slight to Angela. I'm not saying she's old. But it's just a general consensus comment. I like the energy that flows through the band on this album. I like the fact that the riffs feel bigger, they're more magnificent. I feel like all of the songs really sound like after they're over, you're supposed to have that little extended 10 to 15 minute hold of the last note or, constant up and down strum to give the audience a chance to react, to give the audience a chance to yell and scream for an extended period of time, to really drive up that energy factor within your audience, the same energy that you're displaying on stage. I have to say that this is a disc that is very hauntingly similar in stature to Wages of Sin, in the fact that we see a band reinvented a little bit. Sure, all of the tricks that they had prior to that, all of the tricks that Stigmata and Burning Bridges really had at their disposal were present, but a few new ones were exposed as well. A few new ideas really came to the forefront. A few new, tricks were taught to the old dog and actually held, at least for a little while. I feel that again. And that's a good sign. That means that War, wow, I just completely and totally lost everything. That is the reason why War Eternal is a disc that I have to give a strong score to. I have to give it an 82, 83 out of 100. I like the exuberance. I like the energy. I like the fact that I just fucked that up. I like the fact that people are already calling into my show, telling me what an asshole I am. But I also love the fact that this is a band that still maintains and retains its identity. One that is not willing to deviate too far, at least not yet. And I still feel that, even though this album is very well crafted and very well done, and got a very nice score as a reward for that, I feel as though the album that follows this one, this is where the whole future tense comes in. The album that follows this one is really going to be the one to look at. That's going to be the one to examine with a fine-tooth comb. That's going to be the one where we're going to be able to tell, truthfully and honestly, the impact that Alyssa will have on this band. What did you guys think about War Eternal by Arch Enemy? What's your favorite track off of it? What's your favorite Arch Enemy album? I'll tell you mine. It's Burning Bridges. I love that disc. Short, sweet, to the point, but at the same time, god damn! It's a fucking riff fest. What do you guys think about this move? Do you think that this is a good vocal change? Or do you think that this was something that could have used a little bit more thought? Let me know in the comments. That's all I have. So onward to the future of tomorrow. I'll see you then.